Today, I'm going to try to draw the front of this cottage in Cardiff, Wales. And hey, I'm in Wales. And this drawing will be bad, really. It's not very good at all, which is unfortunate. Not only because, well, obviously, I don't want to make bad drawings, but also because it's my first drawing here, as well as my first time here. And ironically, my mom is from Wales, specifically Wrexham up north. And after however many countries I've visited over the past decade or whatever, it took me this long to get here. Sorry, Mom. Anyway, yeah, this drawing sucks, I'll admit it. But that doesn't mean we can't have a good time watching it unfold. Also, real quick, while I have you, subscribe to the channel. I know you've been meaning to. It's easy for you. It's nice for me. And I bet my mom would really appreciate it as well. Mom, if you're listening, tell everyone to subscribe in the comments. No, I'm kidding. You don't have to do that. She will, though, probably. Anyway, today's drawing will take place in the driveway of this adorable cottage. You might be thinking, hey, so you just set your stuff up and filmed the front of this person's house? Good question, and no. Although I did consider it. No, I actually knocked on the door and asked permission. It's the first time I've done that, I think. The lovely woman who stepped out seemed excited by the whole thing, and she even asked how she might see the video. So maybe she's subscribed and seeing this now, or maybe she forgot about me instantly. Either way, it was kind of her to let me sit in front of her place for like half an hour. Too bad she'll just hate the drawing. Actually, I don't even remember if it's all that bad. I just remember feeling disappointed with it. As is almost always the case, the image in my head just did not translate to paper. But that doesn't necessarily mean it was terrible. So who knows? Maybe I was being too hard on myself before. Remember when I said all that negative stuff before? Anyway, let's forget all about that and see for ourselves. So, as you can see, I've drawn the outline of the cottage itself, and it's too early to tell much of anything. The shape seems pretty accurate, nothing obviously bad about it just yet, but I will say that I've already spent way too much time on just this. Additionally, I've included some foliage off to the right, which I think was smart because it keeps me from veering off and adding pretend details where there should really be a tree. So that's nice. Also, for some dumb reason, maybe it was nerves or something, I don't know, I was seemingly desperate to include that stuff on the roof. Even as I was doing it, I was thinking, this is what you're spending your time on? There's so much left to do, and you're stuck with this now? And I was, and I regret it. These might have been quirky little things to add in at the end, maybe to like spice things up, imply a bit more detail or whatever. But to let them take up so much of my time, especially now, was silly. As I move on to the entrance portion of the cottage, I'm reminded of my fear of screwing up the proportions. It was a near constant consideration, but ended up being kind of a non-issue, and ironically, the least of my worries by the end. Even at this stage, you can see things lining up pretty well. I think this entrance area and the rest of the building match up nicely. So I'm glad I considered it, but also I wish I hadn't tortured myself over it. I'm really trying to convince myself that stuff like that doesn't always need to be spot on, and very rarely will it be anyway. More and more, I'd like to inject my own imagination into these, loosening the reins just a bit, primarily so I'm not stuck sitting here forever, my legs falling completely asleep, literally always. That happens every single time. I'm serious. It's terrible. But like I was saying before about the image in my head, it wasn't a perfect recreation of what I saw in front of me. It was more whimsical and exaggerated. That's what I would have loved to draw, but somewhere between observing the cottage and sitting down to draw it, I forgot all that. and I just try to make it perfect. It's crazy. I'm crazy. I need to relax. Okay, so while I make a mess of this doorway, let's talk about Wales. Why did I come here? What took me so long? What is it about Wales that drew me in? Well, aside from the family connection, it was just a new country for me. It really is that simple. Since my wife and I travel the way we do, in this constant digital nomad-esque fashion, we're always looking for the next place to temporarily live, and Wales was a place that happened to fit the budget for this time of year, and it was new, to me at least. And importantly, it was outside of the Schengen zone. If you're unaware, the Schengen zone is pretty much all of Europe at this point, save for a few remaining countries, just coming together and agreeing that folks like me can only stay within its borders for a certain amount of time. Every country in the world has a time limit like this, I imagine, and they vary from place to place. Some are a month, some are 3 months, some are a year. It just depends. The annoying part for me is that this Schengen shenanigan covers a huge part of the European continent. So if I'm in Japan, let's say, for 90 days, I would need to either extend my visa or leave. But leaving could mean crossing the sea and going to a different but nearby country like South Korea. Within Europe, that's not really an option. And the countries that reside outside of the Schengen zone are dwindling with every year as they're sucked up one by one. So after 90 days in any country or combination of countries inside this zone, I have to leave, not just the country, the whole area. Right now, I can go to a handful of Balkan countries, which in the middle of summer would not be my cup of tea, or I can come to the UK, which is my cup of tea. Get it? Sorry. But yeah, so the UK is usually a good option for waiting out the following 90 days, after which I'm free to re-enter the zone. I won't be spending all 90 days in the UK this time. I could never afford it anyway. But as long as I don't re-enter most of Europe over the next 3 months, I'm all good. Does that all make sense? I hope so. Oh, and also, we've just spent a lot of time in England and Scotland, but never Wales. So it was just about time we gave it a shot. Northern Ireland will happen someday as well, I'm sure. Anyway, so you'll notice I've practically done nothing with all of this time. Rather than the flowing, nonchalant drawing skills I've talked about since, I don't know, the very beginning of this series, today it seems I want to be hyperfixated on every extraneous detail I can find. Again, I wouldn't mind if I saved all this stuff for the end, but the fact that I'm spending this much time while so much of this drawing is still just empty space, I don't like it. Also, it doesn't look very nice, and I'm starting to think that all that stuff I said at the beginning was correct. Oh, and if you weren't already convinced that I'm not having the time of my life with this one, be advised that this video is sped up to over 1.5 times speed. Ridiculous. What was I thinking? Right. So let's go on a mini tangent because I don't know how much more of this I can take at the moment. So before I left Talon, I was wondering how I'd feel moving on from there. I mean, emotionally, it's never fun to leave. I love it there. But in drawing terms, I wondered how I'd feel going from that very particular medieval style of architecture to this, or whatever comes after this. Like going from Korea to Krakow was a big leap. And I wondered if I'd feel similarly this time, or maybe the next time I move, or just when I'll experience that jarring shift next. With that, I wondered how that might affect the drawings. For instance, had I stayed on Jeju Island for an extra month or two, I think I'd be a lot better at drawing natural scenes. My very first drawing on this channel was of a big coastal view, and that's because Jeju is rife with that sort of thing. But since leaving, and especially since arriving in Europe, I don't have as much access to scenes like that. So most likely, Certainly, I'm not as good at that stuff as I could have been, but it's possible, or probable, that I'm better at things like architectural detail. Tallinn to Wales isn't as much of a jump as Korea to Krakow, not even close, but I'm eager to see what effect these small differences might have on my process. For now, I'll probably try to keep it similar, like carefully wade into it with references like this one. But I imagine there will be things here that will be unique to this place that I suppose could alter my trajectory, which on the whole is really interesting to me. Where people come from informs so much about their lives, and on a dramatically smaller scale, similarly informs the things people, or in this case, I, draw. Drawing from photos, especially with the internet, obviously skews that a lot, but I like to think about artists of the past who had only what was in front of them to draw, and how that may have affected their abilities, their style, and of course the subjects that they draw, which is cool for me because even though there's a chance I don't get to practice this or that as often as I'd like to, this really broad selection of referential material brought on by this consistent travel will no doubt have its own effect on me and my abilities, etc. So in Wales, I'd venture to guess that architecture will continue to be central to my process, but I'm hoping to add a lot more texture, ideally some more natural scenes, and honestly, I don't know what else. This cottage is pretty much the first thing I stumbled upon, so I haven't had much time to explore just yet. I'd really love to get out of Cardiff, though, hopefully see some of the more remote parts of the country, and it'll be interesting to see if that has any effect on my learning trajectory. I guess I won't be able to observe the effect, even if there is one, but it's interesting to consider nonetheless. Okay, so wait a second. That bottom window isn't half bad. Like I mentioned in yesterday's video, I feel like I'm getting better at those really simple shadows that occur directly below things like overhanging roofs or windows like this one. Maybe you noticed, maybe not, but instead of outlining that dark area below the bottom window, I just went over the line a few times to get this dark shadow. In the past, I would have tried to visually measure out the exact size of the shadow, and that's silly. I don't need to do that. I'm sure I'll still do it from time to time. Maybe I even do it here somewhere, I don't know, but it's something I feel like I'm getting better and better at, just casually dropping in, and I'm feeling pretty good about it. Aside from that, the structure of the window itself, though, I think looks pretty good. I'm still not sure how to manage these windows where most of it is white, because when I make a mark or line, I'm adding black. So really, my pen should be reserved for the window panes in this case, and maybe those subtle lines in between each plane, the left, middle, and right. But without first creating the shape of the window more broadly, I wouldn't know where to make those marks. So to some extent, I need to actually draw those white parts. But yeah, you know what I mean. It's a catch-22. I've drawn all sorts of windows by now, some with dark frames and light panes, but most of them are like this one, and I've gone back and forth on how best to manage them. So if you have any tips, let me know in the comments. Windows are the bane of my existence currently, so any help would be greatly appreciated. For now, though, I've opted for these light lines to build out the structure, and then a few quick hatch marks for the dark panes of glass. It could be better, it could be a lot better, but all things considered, it's not awful. I'll take it. With that, my patience and careful consideration did not extend to the upper window. I clearly had more than enough, so I simplified this one quite a bit, and it shows. On one hand, I wish it looked better, or at least match the one below it. But on the other hand, I didn't want to do all that all over again, and I'm sure you understand. Here it is. If you're the kind woman who let me make this, well, thank you, and I'm sorry. I wish I did a better job. It looks childish in all the wrong ways. It's rigid, yet messy, and it's awkward. It looks awkward. Too bad. So tell me, what are your thoughts? How do you feel about this one? Let me know in the comments. And if you like this video, please go ahead and like the video. Anyway, I appreciate you for taking the time to watch this one, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks.